Good morning, ladies and gentlemen.
Good morning.
We appreciate everyone gathering here today at this sad occasion, to commemorate the terrible tragedy of hate crime, anti-Semitic hate crime, worst in the nation's history. And we appreciate the Borough President coming together to join us and calling this press conference to condemn this horrible crime. My name is Josh Melman. I'm the chairman of the FJCC, the Flatbush Jewish Community Coalition, and we are partnering with the Borough President in holding this event because there is nothing more important to our community than working together and condemning hate and looking for all society to be in unison, in peace, living in peace and security. It's an honor to call upon the Borough President of Brooklyn, Eric Adams.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you so much. And as all people of decency in this country realize what a horrific incident took place, and it was really a continuation of the hatred that has played out in our houses of worship. When we look at First Baptist Church in Sutherland Springs, 26 people killed. Emmanuel AME, Charleston, South Carolina, now 9 people killed. Sikh Temple in Wisconsin, 6 people killed. Jewish Community Center of Greater Kansas City, 3 people killed. And Pittsburgh Tree of Life Synagogue, 11 killed, 6 wounded. A madman entered the Tree of Life Synagogue to take lives. One of those lives in particular personifies how horrific this incident is. 97-year-old Holocaust survivor here in America, where we protect the right to worship and freedom. That 97-year-old lost their lives based on this senseless violence. This is not who we are as America. And let me say this, there's much debate about should we have handguns inside houses of worship. I'm not going to live the way it ought to be. I'm going to live the way it is. It is unfortunate, based on these numbers that I just stated, there are sick minds who are preying on innocent people while they're in their houses of worship. I'm calling on law enforcement officers off duty that are of all faith to bring their handguns to their houses of worship. If you are a Jewish police officer and you are off duty, when you come to worship, you should come with your handgun. If you are a Christian police officer and you are off duty, when you enter your house of worship, you should come with your handgun. The 97-year-old Holocaust survivor did not have good people that carried firearms during the Holocaust. Well, there are good people that carry firearms in America now, and they should not leave them at the front door of their houses of worship. They should bring them inside with them to protect the people who were there. I will bring my handgun every time I enter a church or a synagogue to worship. And I'm calling for other officers who are off duty to do the same. We cannot continue to stand by and watch innocent people lose their lives to sick people who are carrying handguns and shooting innocent people in the fashion that we saw. We're here to condemn in the strongest terms the shooting rampage that took place at the Tree of Life Synagogue in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania yesterday. This was one of the worst attacks on the Jewish community in American history. Right here in our country, it took place. This cannot be the new norm for us. We're not going to settle and believe this is the America that we're going to be a part of. 1.1 million Jews call New York City home. Brooklyn is the largest Jewish community outside of the state of Israel. That is why it's important that the response must come from Brooklyn, because this is where the largest concentration of Jewish residents reside. Jews did not escape the Holocaust or anti-Semitism around the globe to find a new life that is hostile, hateful, and violent in America. Think about this. The attack was armed with an AR-15 style assault rifle, a Glock, and 2 other handguns. This is not the America that we should be a part of or that we should become. So assigning uniform officers out front is fine. Assigning military personnel in our airports are fine. But these attacks are not taking place out front. They're not taking place in our airports. They're taking place inside our houses of worship. So to have unarmed civilians inside those houses of worship is the wrong thing to do, and I am not going to support that concept or that idea. The shooting killed 11 Jewish worshipers and wounded 4 police officers and 2 others. So after the Jewish residents and worshipers were attacked, this sick mind then went and attacked the responding law enforcement officers. Following the shooting spree, the attacker was on his way out the synagogue when he was confronted by the police and exchanged gunfire. As a 22-year veteran of the New York City Police Department, I know firsthand the devastation effects of gun violence in our community. We have to end this sick mindset of the over-proliferation of gun violence. This was an assault rifle that was used on innocent people, and we must call it for what it is. Our houses of worship across the borough must remain vigilant in the face of increasing security threats across the nation. But we cannot let our country become a place where we have to worry about being shot. And we must ensure the safety of people who are attending our houses of worship. And to blame the victims is the wrong thing to do. Victims should never be blamed. They should be protected. And stating that we have armed people inside houses of worship is not blaming the victim. It is being real about the atmosphere that we're in. The number of people I just listed from churches and synagogues and other houses of worship who have been attacked cannot be ignored. In 2017, anti-Semitic attacks increased by 57%, according to the Anti-Defamation League. Anti-Semitism account for the majority of the hate crimes that we see in this country. And we have to come together and realize this. And that's why we're here today, joined by prominent leaders and organizations. And I want to thank the Flatbush Jewish Community Coalition, Councilman Chaim Deutsch, who immediately after we spoke last night came out to join us, Councilman Williams, Congresswoman Yvette Glock, Councilman Matthew Eugene, and any of the councilmen, Assemblywoman Weinstein. All of us know that we represent a borough and a county that is really reflective of the Jewish population across the globe, right here in the borough of Brooklyn. We know what an obligation that comes with. Whenever there's a horrific attack that takes place in Pittsburgh or Wisconsin or anywhere on the globe, the first thing we think about the large Jewish population we have here. We cannot ignore these attacks. We know that we're always under some form of threat or danger. We take these attacks serious, and we truly realize and understand how important it is that we respond in the fashion that we do. And so our hearts go out to the family members Our prayers go out to the members of the Pittsburgh community, and as you see, voices will rise all across the city. We felt that it was important that the first and immediate response came here from the borough of Brooklyn. As I indicated, it is here in this borough that the largest concentration of Jewish members call home outside of Israel. And we must be the first response and the first line of defense. I'm going to be meeting this week with members from the Guardians Association, the Shalom Society, that's the Jewish organization, in the police department. I'm going to bring them together, and we're going to map out a plan of how do we ensure that those officers who are off duty and go and attend houses of worship, that they would now have to refocus their attention not only on prayer, but on protection. I'm now going to call Chaim Deutsch, the councilman that represents this area and represent a large Jewish constituency here in the borough of Brooklyn.
Thank you. Today it's about Pittsburgh. We're all out here today to not only condemn, because that's the most obvious, to condemn an act of terrorism where people get murdered. This is not a swastika that was scrawled with a chalk or with spray paint. This is not someone cursing at a Jew. This is murder. This is hatred that led to the loss of 11 lives and injured 6 individuals, including 2 of the law enforcement. At the end of the Sabbath, when I turned on my phone, not knowing what was happening, my first dozen text messages were from people of different faiths that represent New York City, sending their condolences. In New York City, we have residents from 150 countries who speak over 80 different languages, and more than 40% of New Yorkers are immigrants. My parents were Holocaust survivors, in particular my father, that went through 3 concentration camps and survived Auschwitz, Mauthausen, and Gerzkirchen. The memories that he has retold of what happened during the Holocaust is something that happened just yesterday. This morning, I had what was supposed to be a happy event at the Shalom Society's breakfast in Manhattan, turned out to be a solemn event, where one of the honorees was Devorah Halberstam, whose son was murdered in 1994 only because he was a Jew. Today, we all stand united against hatred, against bias, against those that want to destroy anyone that represents a religion, a culture. Here in New York City and here in the United States of America, we have always demonstrated who we are and practiced our religion and was proud of our cultures. We will continue to do what we do, and we thank New York's finest, the greatest police department in the world, for all that they do. Now it's our time to come together and to send a message to our elected officials and administration and leaders that we must ask for fair pay to the men and women of the New York City Police Department. We will continue being New Yorkers and stand up and being proud of who we are. I would like to thank our Borough President and all the leaders who are here today, Assemblymember Helene Weinstein, and my other colleagues, Congressmember Yvette Clark and Councilmember Jamani Williams, and I'm sure I'm leaving, and Councilmember Matthew Eugene, standing together representing Brooklyn, 2.6 million Brooklynites, 2.6 million New Yorkers, to stand united and to stand together to make sure incidents like this never happen again. God bless the United States of America. God bless the state of Israel. God bless you all.
one of the rabbis will close.
I would like to bring upon Cheskel Bennett, an activist here in Brooklyn and this area, to say a few words.
Good morning. My name is Cheskel Bennett. I am the co-founder of the Flatbush Jewish Community Coalition. I'm an executive board member of Agudath Israel of America. I'm also a grandchild of Holocaust survivors, a proud New Yorker, a father, a grandfather. My heart is broken. Our collective hearts are full of anguish. The murder of 11 people during a Shabbos service in a Pittsburgh synagogue is a horrific tragedy and an outrage. Our deepest sympathies go out to those who are mourning, the mourning families and the friends of the victims who were targeted because they were Jews, a story all too frequent. We extend our deepest gratitude to the law enforcement officers who ran into harm's way in Pittsburgh, and our law enforcement officers, men and women in blue, all across the country, who are now hardening the targets of shuls, synagogues, and yeshivas, and Jewish institutions all across our country. There are simply no words of condemnation that can truly express our anguish and disgust at the perpetrator of this hate-filled crime, and unfortunately others like it. Any platform or group, including those on social media, that serve to stir up and metastasize bigotry and anti-Semitic hatred needs to be called out and shut down for incitement of violence. Until all Americans confront the horror of anti-Semitism head on, our great democracy will not have achieved its promise. I want to thank our Borough President and our elected officials for standing shoulder to shoulder with our community as we stand shoulder to shoulder with the community in Pittsburgh and Jewish communities all across the globe who never stop worrying about terror, who never can sleep at night because of rockets and missiles and bus bombs and cafe bombs. The Jew on the street anywhere, whether it be in Paris or Brooklyn, shouldn't have to worry that they will be a victim of a biased crime just because they are Jewish. We mourn together, but we are strong together. And I thank all of you for coming today.
Assemblywoman Helen Weinstein.
I stand with the diversity of Brooklyn here to join in condemning the act of horrific hate that took place in Pittsburgh. And as I said earlier today, not only do we have to have laws and try and make sure that those who are perpetrators of hate are dealt with, we also need to focus on our children. Hate is something that is taught. You're not born to hate. And it's important that we rededicate our efforts in the schools, in our families, in our communities, to teach our young people that we are all one, and we need to live together, and we need to be civil to each other and be supportive of each other. And if we start from the bottom up, maybe we could start to make a dent in some of this hatred that we find really flourishing, unfortunately, in our state, and in our country.
Thank you. Excellent.
I would like to call upon Adele Reyna, who is the president of the Muslims Officer Society, who stands with us in solidarity, to say a few words.
Good morning. I'm just going to be really brief. I just want to say on behalf of the Muslim community, we stand with our Jewish brothers and sisters. Just like when there's an attack on our community, they stand shoulder to shoulder next to us. I want to say thank you to the Borough President and other elected officials, especially Chaim Deutsch, who works very close, uniting all these communities in Brooklyn, in his district, and our hearts are broken just like everyone else's. Attack on one person is attack on all. We all need to stand together as we do it always and be an example for the world. Just like one Brooklyn, that's how it's got to be, one world. Other than that, our hearts and prayers are with the victims and our Jewish community and friends. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Well said.
You know, we have our state legislators here, and I'm going to reach out to them over the week. We have to re-examine how we utilize the internet, Facebook, Instagram, of the accounts. That must start becoming part of the handgun application process. We cannot have a person get a handgun carry permit in this state and they have hatred on their social media platform.
Right.
So by allowing the process, the New York City Police Department should utilize, and the state apparatus should utilize a review of a social media account to make a determination if a person is mentally, emotionally, or should they be in possession of a handgun. Right now, that is not done at all. No one is examining that, and I'm going to reach out to my state electeds to ensure that we introduce that. New York State must lead from the front, not from the rear. Now, on the federal level, we want to call our congressional person, congressional woman, Yvette Clark.
I'd like to thank our borough president and all of the leadership here present for convening us. It is with a heavy heart that I stand here on behalf of the people of the 9th Congressional District to extend our condolences to the families of Pittsburgh who are dealing with this atrocity head on. We know that there has been a spike in hate crime activity, anti-Semitism, racial discord in our nation. It is up to us here in Brooklyn to set the example of how together during times of tragedy to raise up one another's humanity. There is no place in this nation for this type of divisive action to be taking place. We have witnessed far too frequently those who are mentally deranged, who have political motivations, having access to assault weapons, now going into places of respite to wreak havoc, not only on the individuals who are worshiping, who are in a place where they feel peace, but on all of us as terrorist activity. Today we stand up and we say we denounce wholeheartedly this type of behavior, and that it is incumbent upon us in Washington, D.C. to do all that we can to deal with the access to these types of weaponry for individuals who are unhinged. It is time for us to make sure that the rhetoric we use is not inciting individuals to take actions like the ones that we are witnessing just this week. I am totally devastated because I thought about what has happened in the synagogue in Pittsburgh and said, my God, that could have been, God forbid, someone in my community. It could have been any one of us at any point in time who feel free in America to worship the way that we worship. And so I want to thank our borough president. I want to thank the Jewish leadership of our community for convening us. We are here to say that we will not be intimidated by acts of violence, that we will stand together to make a change, not only for us, but for future generations to come. This behavior must stop. This violence must stop.
Thank you. Thank you. Well said.
I would like to call Leon Goldberg, a longtime activist in Brooklyn, to say a few words.
Yesterday, I was walking around the neighborhood coming out of shul, and I started seeing the police cars
near the large shuls all over the neighborhood, I knew something was going on. I want to say that we are one with our brothers and sisters in Pittsburgh over the loss of life at the Tree of Life Synagogue. They are one, we are one with you, we will be with you, and we're living in a country that we have to be vigilant, and as the Borough President said, Jewish anti-Semitic incidents are the majority of all the hate crimes that go on in the United States. Anyone that wears a yarmulke knows about that, does not have to be told that, because when we walk on the streets every so often, there is a comment. So it's something that we're very, very familiar with. But we will live with vigilance, but we will not give in, and we will live free lives as we should in the United States of America, that has given the Jewish community such a tremendous opportunity. We're going to go about our lives. We're just going to be more vigilant, but we're not going to take a backseat.
And representing one of the councilmen that represent this area, Councilman Matthew Eugene.
Thank you very much, Borough President Eric L. I'm here in solidarity with the Jewish community to condemn and to stand strong against this horrible crime against the Jewish community. This crime is not only a crime against the Jewish people, it is a crime against humanity. It is a crime against our country. We should all come together to ensure that Jewish people, they don't have to have fear to go to synagogue to worship. We stand all together. I want to say to my Jewish brothers and sisters, to the Jewish leaders, all of us elected officials, all of us leaders in the community, we are with you. And we're going to work together to ensure that we break the cycle. Too often that Jewish people have been victims of crime and hate crime. And today, we want to send a very strong message together. This is not acceptable, and this should stop. And I want to extend my condolences, my heartfelt condolences to the victim and to the family members and to all the Jewish communities in this country. Thank you very much.
Thank you, God. Now call upon Hanina Sperling from Crown Heights.
Thank you very much, Rabbi Abe Friedman. I want to first thank the Borough President Eric Adams for putting this news conference together, like he always does. The Borough President, before he came Borough President, was our state senator. And he always stood with the Jewish community. And when these things happen too many times, if it's in Borough Hall, or it's in Crown Heights, or it's in Borough Park, wherever these Jewish incidents happen, for one reason, and one reason only, because they are Jewish. And I believe Member Chaim Deutsch said it, that the Devorah Halberstam, who lost his son, Ari, for one reason, and one reason only, because he is Jewish. So this thing must stop right away. I also want to applaud the President of the United States. I saw a clip yesterday that he said that this is a hate crime. We all know that it's a hate crime. And we all know that he had hate in him. And we all know he went into a house of worship, a synagogue, to kill people. And I'm hoping and praying that our Attorney General, Jeff Sessions, should put the death penalty for this case. Our Torah tells us, an eye for an eye, a foot for a foot. And I'm saying a life for a life. He has to get the death penalty. Because if this not going to happen, we're going to, God forbid, be all over here again. Thank you very much, and thank you to Borough President for putting this together.
Councilman Jamani Williams.
Shalom Aleichem, Manishma. I know that none of us want to be here, because if lives weren't taken, we wouldn't be here. It pained me so much when I read and saw what was happening, because as I mentioned, that can be so many people who are worshiping today, people who worshiped yesterday, people who are morning prayers on Friday. We are in a time that people are doing their best to instill fear and terror in communities just because they are who they are. Hatred is uniting us, so I hope the lesson is, let's unite ourselves. Because when the gunman went to that synagogue, I didn't hear that he said or asked any questions about political affiliations. When they went into the Pulse party, the club, when they went into the churches in the South, there were no questions about political affiliations. There were only questions about hate. And so we have to remember that people are afraid, whether it is black people in churches, Jewish people in synagogues, the LGBT community, immigrants. We have to unite ourselves against this hatred that is coming toward us. And the best way to do that is not to divide ourselves, to stand up when any one of those communities are being preyed upon, when any one of those communities are being focused on because of who they are. Make no mistake about it. The synagogue was specifically chosen because it is a synagogue. The people were killed specifically because they are Jewish. It was anti-Semitic, it was terror. We also have to be honest about what's going on in this community, in this country, because prayers and thoughts are no longer enough. Right. So we have to be clear and call it out wherever we see it, the hate, but also call out the rhetoric that if it's not causing it, it is definitely fueling it. We cannot call and condemn the acts without the rhetoric that's causing it. We also have to talk about the access to weapons of war that are allowing to be more vicious. I just want to read a tweet from my friend Michael Skolnick. Aurora, AR-15, Orlando, AR-15, Parkland, AR-15, Las Vegas, AR-15, Waffle House, AR-15, Texas Church, AR-15, San Bernardino, AR-15, Tree of Life Synagogue, AR-15. We cannot have these conversations without being real about the rhetoric and the access to guns in this country.